Bugs are one thing. I think everybody needs to understand. The fact that somebody in my chat, one of my mods, his name is Diddy. He literally every single game, I kid you not, I can't play one game where he's actually with the team or even shooting and he's just under the map. He finds some way to get under the map. You can't make it up, and there's nothing you can do. There is. So I think to a degree, I get it. I mean, there's gonna be bugs here and there. I think everybody in the Call of Duty community, to some degree, has to understand there's gonna be bugs. And we were talking about it earlier. I think most people just want to be pessimistic, but I need to know literally on the most important thing is just server stability. Like, if you don't have that, you can't play. So you referenced it in the response to Expel. You said you kind of had an explanation that you kind of compared motherboards to your PC. Again, I'm not super technical, but I understood the analogy, right? Could you possibly dive a little bit deeper into that and what that looks like and why is it so difficult to just stabilize servers? Because it's probably one of the only games that I've played. Apex, Fortnite, I can jump on Rocket League. There's so many games I can play online where I don't have as bad of a time where I do with COD. Like, there's games we were playing was it's impossible.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different things that go into what makes the game stable, right? And so one of the key ones is the servers have to be really good quality, and they have to have good connection to the servers, right? So if your internet is dog shit, I mean, excuse my French, but you're host, right? It doesn't matter how good the server is. And if the server is in an area that has issues, right? Like their internet service has issues, well, that server is going to have issues. And so what ultimately happens on a game like Call of Duty, and this is, Fortnite's kind of an example. Fortnite, if you look at it in terms of its graphics, right, and in terms of the gameplay and the number of assets that exist in the game, it's very minimal, right? It's a very minimalistic, very simplistic game. There's not a lot going on, so there's not a lot for the servers to have to deal with. In Call of Duty, you are photorealistic, right? That's their goal, photorealistic. And if you look around and it drives me nuts when I'm trying to snipe, but there's leaves falling and there's birds flying through the air and there's all these things going on, right? Well, those all have to, the server has to create all that and tell your computer, right? Hey, there's a bird flying over here and there's another one flying over there, right? And so it's got a lot of that going on. And then on top of that, you have what's called code optimization. And this is kind of where I'm probably going to screw up explaining this because this isn't, I'm not a back-end developer. So any developers that hear this, I blame somebody else for saying it. So what that means is how efficiently does the code run, right? On a game like Fortnite, for example, there aren't a lot of textures to call. It just, blue wall, right? Green grass. And so it's calling the same thing for everything.
Right.
And so what it says is, hey, green grass, put it here, like in this whole span. And your game then does the processing. Your computer does all the processing. It creates it. The server just tells it what to do. With Call of Duty, there are so many things that the server has to tell your computer to create that there's back and forth. There's so much back and forth. And so the speed and efficiency with which your computer can create what the server's telling it to create, render it for you, and then take your interactions with all of that information and send it back to the server, okay? The faster, the more efficiently it can do that, the better. So in an ideal environment, your game will render individually every single wall, every rock, every grain of sand, every inch of sky. It will just create that entire world on your PC, and the file will probably be a terabyte in size, and use you'll need 3 graphics cards to keep it running because there's just so much. So what the game does is it builds the world as you look at it, right? And so that's why you see rendering at distance sometimes, right? You can look through a scope and things are planar in the distance. The game didn't prepare to call those call those assets and call those images ahead of time. And so you get pop in and you get GTA Online is huge for this if you ever played that, where you look like, across the map. You can see across the map, but you don't see anything until you
Right.
really look at it, and then stuff starts appearing.
Yep. The rendering.
And so Call of Duty is trying to do that as fast as possible. And so where some of the problems are going to come up is there's probably a lot of optimization that needs to be done. They need to be more efficient in what they call from the server. So that means, like, for example, if you want to see, if you're going to look at a building, right, and you can see 3 walls of a building, okay, and the server can say, I want to see this wall, and I want to see this wall, and I want to see the roof, right? Calls all of that information.
Mm-hmm.
What that's 3 processes, 3 calls that your computer has to make to the server, and the server has to send back. Now, if you could take all of those assets, put them on your computer, and then the server just and it just says, hey, create building A, and your computer then can draw up all those things, right? That's much more efficient. It's 1 call, it's not 3, which doesn't seem like a big deal, right? It's like, okay, it's one line of text instead of 3. But when you multiply that by the millions of things that you see every time you look around in Al Mazrah, for example,
Mm-hmm.
that's a lot of information being trucked back and forth about what's supposed to be rendered on your screen. And so getting more efficient at that, tightening that up. I'm guessing that different aspects of what you see creates lag. Things run into conflict. They don't, the server doesn't know what to do, or your computer doesn't know what to do with it, so it just kind of bounces around, and drags down while it sorts that out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's some problems with that. The servers themselves they're bad. They're really bad.
This is an understatement. What you're saying is an understatement. It's literally unplayable. It's unplayable.
Yeah, and I think what really the problem with the servers themselves is they've been using, essentially, my understanding is, the same servers for a long time. I read a report a while back, like 3-4 months ago, that talked about the server company. So a lot of companies, they don't buy their own server racks. They don't have their own building full of servers connected to the trunk internet, right? They pay a company for it, right? So Amazon Web Services, AWS, that's one of the big players in the game, right? Everybody, most people have heard about it, and when they go down, 3/4 of the internet turns off. And so their types of, that type of service is almost certainly what these game servers are on. And so there's a third-party company. They maintain the servers. They replace the hardware as it wears out. But Activision is tied into a certain level of service, and whether it's whether there's some long-binding contract they're trapped in, or there's an inability to move their existing games. Because I'm guessing any game that you can log into and play right now is all on the same set of servers. Like they're all connected. And so I don't think they have a strong ability to move one thing without trying to move everything. And that means we'd probably have to turn off all of the legacy games. Like they would just all shut down. And I think Activision has been reluctant to do that in a lot of ways. And that leaves them stuck on these servers that just aren't. It's clear they're not up to it. They're not doing well, right? And so I think there's some business decisions, and I think there's some technical decisions on why these servers haven't been upgraded. During the beta, we had great servers, and so I think the beta was on a different
Phenomenal
tier of service. Not connected.
The beta,
the same service.
The beta felt great. I was telling people, when I hopped onto the Modern Warfare 2, it didn't feel like Modern Warfare 1 or Warzone 1, which I was okay with, right? I wasn't gonna judge it too soon.
Yeah.
But chat, the audio,